Hey guys, so today I want to take a little bit of a different approach with this video because this is more of a different take as to what I normally make. So this is more of an investigation or kind of like my thoughts as to why League is not fun anymore. And that's a bit of an interesting thing to say because it's so popular of a game, and you would think, well, Quatch, it's so popular, don't you think people are having fun? And to ironically answer, I would say no. And if you're reading the title of this video, I think this is kind of just, it's not really organized. It's kind of just like an investigation into potentially what the reasons were as to why this game has this interesting dichotomy of being so popular, but not very fun, to the point where it's kind of looked down upon again. Before, let's say, and this is not to say it's in every region or in every area, right? I'm sure in places like Asia especially, League is really cool to kind of be a part of the culture because it's so ingrained in the culture there, especially in places like Korea where it's extremely dense, and you get acknowledgments from the president, and it's just really recognized. It's arguably recognized as a sport more than actual sports sometimes because people give it more credit, and there's so much honor and like tradition baked into it. So it's a very interesting topic there. But in other places, and places like where I'm based in NA, and people don't like League players, and I think that's part of the problem in a way. And I just think a lot of people, when they play League, it's not very fun, and they are therefore intimidated, and then it just causes this whole slew of issues where people don't want to play League. So I wanted to just kind of use some topics that I thought about in terms of what potentially could be causing this problem and what is deterring players from playing the game, as well as kind of tying in some social concepts as part of it. So I'm kind of just spitballing here for sure, but I do have some notes as to what potentially is the idea. So to start, I think that I want to introduce the concept of social currency. And this concept is basically the idea that how cool things are to be viewed in order to like almost like spend or invest your time into doing so, right? So how cool does it make you feel to invest slash be a part of something, right? And let me just pull up the definition once again, just to be sure. So this helps better kind of centralize the information. It's information shared, which encourages further social encounters. So that helps really better encapsulate what I'm trying to talk about here. So when applied to a thing like League, to a game like League, it's all right. So I play League, and the outcome of that to increase social currency is to enjoy playing League, but also to the point where you want other people to play League as well, and you want to kind of promote this sort of loop, and it feels cool to play League, and that is for most people farther than true. I think for the most part you almost don't want to say that you play League, or there's maybe other games too, but I think by far and away there's a stigma with League players, and I think it's a lot of the time, even within esports, it's kind of cringe and looked down upon to play League, right? Because the emotion that's triggered when you think of a League player is the classic sort of like frustrations that come around with the game. So you're really toxic, you are really just like shallow people. Like it's I don't want to say it that way because I truly enjoy the game, but I think I'm kind of like one of the few. I don't think I'm the majority here, and that's I don't think it's a surprise because like, if I tie this to what most popular content for League right now is kind of reflecting that. So let's talk about it. So UGC is a really big thing. User generated content is a really big thing for a lot of games. It helps make people kind of resonate with the game, kind of build their thoughts, and kind of be one with the community, right? So in normal games, you're going to think of clips of certain champions or certain characters, right? That's usually the sign that the game is doing well. So a lot of times, like you'll see this with like TikToks with, hey, we're Valorant players, of course we eat out for every meal, or something like that, right? With League players, it's more the most popular content with League players is all self-deprecating, not even self-deprecating, just deprecating humor about the stigma surrounding League players. This is to differentiate from the game itself. I think a lot of the there is still some content out there that like kind of helps derive and connect the community in that sense, but it's like far and away much worse than it was, let's say, in League's prime between let's say the point of, let's say, 2014 to like 2017 or something like that, as a broader scope, right? Because I think that's when, if I pull up Google Trends, that's when the game was most popular. And basically the point I'm making now, so this is a reference point, right? So it kind of peaked around this era, but it's down now. But the point I'm trying to make is that the most popular content now is that it's making fun of League players. It's how, you know, they're all Jax players that like underage girls, or, you know, they have some sort of level of autism, because, you know, that's what League players kind of feel like when you're playing, you know, in terms of the solo queue experience. And this could be a hot take, but like there's a lot of sort of like joy derived from the mental pain that goes through League players themselves, right? And I think this is an example of how little the focus is on the game, and I think it's like kind of a negative feedback loop. So this is where it kind of gets started, right? So let's talk first with frustration in the game itself is a huge one, because the game is just naturally frustrating by design, right? I don't think this is by any surprise for anybody. Right now, the way League flows is just a very frustrating game, and that is just how it is, because it's been positioned as an esport, a very competitive esport. And while this is not a bad thing per se, and this is what Riot wants to do with their games, and they want it to feel that way, it's harder for themselves because they value the sport so much. Their designing of it kind of hurts most people. And, you know, like the 99%. The reason I say this is because 99% of players are not even close to being professionals, right? They don't even dream of it, right? They're not going to even think about it, right? And because of this, because of the frustration, there is no way to just have fun and vibe with people, to spend time. So why do I say it like this? The idea is that I think it's actually really important and underrated in a lot of esports titles to kind of just have a place where you can vibe and just spend time, right? And as much as these are like competitive games, I think a tricky part to the design is also giving players enough time to kind of just have fun. And the way League is designed right now is that it's extremely punishing for players, especially new players. Like if you League is a game that's pretty much unplayable when you get started. Even more so, like you can probably say this with most MOBA games, and that's just how it is. It's kind of like a punishing skill curve. But you know, there are titles that by design do a better job at this. And while you know you can't make excuses for League, you can't just give League a pass just because it's a harder to learn game, right? I think sure, you know, it's harder to pick up innately, and that's part of the fun, right? You can argue that's part of the fun, but I think that doesn't excuse Riot from trying their absolute best from making solutions that will make the game as easy as possible for the first few games. I don't know. Like, I'm not saying I have a solution, because I think if this was easier, that it probably would have been solved. But, you know, this is an identifiable problem that, you know, other games kind of need, because you need to cater to your major audience, and you need time to be able to just spend with your friends and just vibe, right? This is why I think the Fortnite concept switch was actually a very good idea, because they kind of dialed in and understood that a bigger driver of interest in the game would probably be surrounding just vibing in the game and spending time and then spending money potentially, right? Or even in other sports. Although other sports maintain that high level of competition, there's a lot of opportunity to just have fun and go for it, right? And just like kind of mess around. And I think that's the piece that League is missing, because it's very focused on performing well. There's no room to really care about anything else, and you don't get to try things out that much. I think it very quickly promotes this culture of negativity and focus on perfection, because especially with a game this old, right? League is very often it's not that novel anymore if you've been a part of the scene. So there needs to be ways to make it fun and just like casually, and it's something that's hard to achieve. So what happens is that then it leads to the final part: social currency lowers. In fact, it's basically like this, where it's kind of a negative feedback loop, right? And these are like, it's just a infinite loop that League is stuck in, because it's not cool to play League because of these two factors, right? This is why the experience is not fun, and therefore, if the experience is not fun and there's a stigma around League, therefore it's just going to be hard for you to convince other people to play it with you, right? Because that no one really wants to just get frustrated. Like, you don't come home to play League so you can get frustrated, right? Even in NA, that's why, in my opinion, that's why like for a long time Valorant is much more popular of a game, because it's easier to get into. There's a lot of components where you kind of just like mess around with your friends, and there is a very intense competitive aspect. I'm not denying that, but there's also room for people to just enjoy the game, and just casuals don't feel like they're getting absolutely blasted, and that's thankfully something by design that they made it easier. Same with TFT. I think it also helps. Another component of this that I think both is good and bad for League is the idea of another pain point to answer is it's too hard to get into League, right? Why is that? I think even players that have played League in the past struggle to play League, which is interesting. This is a unique problem that League has, because there are a lot of games that do update often, but I think for the most part, League is the game that has the most drastic and the most often amount of changes out of like any esport title, right? Most games are going to have one of the two. So they're going to have drastic changes every once in a while, or they're going to have changes that are maybe more frequent, but they match the cadence of League, but there's not really much of a significance on the way it actually affects the game, right? So let's say Valorant, I'm a little washed, so I don't know the full cadence, but I'm pretty sure for all intents and purposes from when I played between beta and 2022, there were not too many like game breaking sort of changes, right? They would change maps, they would change some agent balance, sure, but fundamentally speaking, you still shoot guns, and you still your agents feel the same for the most part, right? Let's take things like CS or Dota, right? These games also change. Dota barely changes. Like, there's only like 2 patches a year, right? And it's still bust in esport. Same with Counter-Strike. Sure, CS2 patch, but I think far and away, a lot of the fundamental aspects of the game mechanics remain the same, right? Maybe you could argue with this with some other titles, but I think the combination of a high cadence and a high amount of the way that it changes the game, like League's changes are objectively really overwhelming at times because they nuke a bunch of items. There's always mid rework stuff. They're changing what things you're playing for. It has very adverse effects on the game, and I think the league's competitive success competitive focus, and high cadence. The idea here is that it has high operational costs and makes it really overwhelming for players who play less frequently. And then this feels into this. And then it kind of just starts to shit show, right? And, it's just like really hard. It's just like this really hard sort of situation because now you can argue like, well, that's part of what makes League fun, arguably, right? I could acknowledge that argument where, well, I play League. I really like the cadence of the patches. I really like how champions change. But is it too much? Like, is that really what your entire population thinks? Because there's a lot of players where they'll play like, they'll play every now and then. They'll play with the boys or, they'll vibe. But every time they go to do that, the game's completely different and they don't know what to do anymore. And it's like very nerve wracking for them because then they don't know what to do anymore. Then they get frustrated or their friends get frustrated. And then when that happens, they're like, well, shit, I can't have fun. Right? It's not fun when I'm just getting shit on. It doesn't feel really good at all because like the league is also a very punishing game by design. So there's no fun means to enjoy the game. The closest is through the IPs, right? And to enjoy some of the products. And that's where the positive examples come from. And it's an amazing IP, but I always say the worst part about League is playing it. So being a fan of League is probably an easier path than just even playing the game. So that's why when you see people, they watch Arcane, you're like, wow, fantastic. I love this world. Let's play League. No, you don't. You don't want to play League, right? Like you hear that, that's a death wish. Or you see Worlds. Let's say there's someone that doesn't play League and they watch Worlds and they think it's so cool. Like they see all the narratives and stuff, and they want Faker to go for his 4-peat. Who's gonna come back? Will NA do their thing, right? I think that's what this is just a weird problem that League has, and I think this is what really makes it not fun anymore for a lot of people. So some people can acknowledge this and they try to overcome it, or they have a really good group of friends that they can they're very trusting, and they don't mind the frustration, and they're friends for life, but that's not most people. And I think this is an issue with League. This is at least what I think about why it's not very fun for a lot of people and why many people don't play it. And this is a really big blocker for the game. And I think honestly, if Riot doesn't fix this at some point, then I think this is actually going to be a problem for the game. And I think it's going to have huge negative outlook on the overall trajectory. So yeah, these are my thoughts. Hopefully this sort of makes sense, this entire feedback loop as to why it's not fun. And I'd love to hear your thoughts on maybe what potential solutions you have on what you could think of to make it fun, because I can see several different aspects. And this problem also contributes to why financially League might not have as much success in the future. And you're already seeing some signs of that as of the time of this recording. So yeah, love to hear your thoughts on this, maybe some solutions, maybe what you think about, what other things that make League really frustrating for you guys, or maybe it's not fun. And, I'd love to have some discussion about that. So thanks, guys.